This is the Drew Experience, the show that's 80% combat sports and 20% everything else. To kick off the new year, I've gone off the grid to get a big guest. He's an MMA news analyst for Northern European MMA and Scandinavia, such as Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark. Real big name up in Northern Europe. I got exposed to him luckily through kind of a mutual friend, which we'll go into in the show. And he's none other than Reza. Or is it Reza from, do you say, is it Freja or Frey? How do you say it?
Freya MMA.
Freya MMA. Reza, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to come on, even though there's a 6-hour difference from Canada and Sweden.
That's fine. Thank you for having me. So yeah, we are Freya MMA, and most people don't even know my name, which I kind of appreciate that, because the platform is the platform, and I am myself. But today you're going to get me, and of course we're going to speak a bit about Freya MMA as well.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, no problem. Well, look, I really love how you do it. Like, you don't call your followers. Like, you go by the saying, if you want to go far, go together. And I think that's what's really made your show really popular in the Northern European scene, because I kind of find, because I'm a history major and I also like geography too. I find there's like this collectivist attitude in Northern Europe where everyone just works together. Like, they find a way to work together regardless.
It seems like it, and especially in the mixed martial arts community. I mean, everyone seems to be pushing each other around these ends, at least in Scandinavia. I'm originally from the UK, where it can be a bit of a battle scene over there. There is so many gyms and things like that. But moving over to Sweden in 2012, I really felt like the MMA scene here is quite rumbling here. It's low level rumbling, but there's a lot of possibilities here and big names that still haven't kind of hit outside of Europe or outside of Scandinavia. So my platform that I created is to push these fighters to get to the big time.
We really have to, because when you think of Scandinavia in combat sports, you look at Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV. He's got a Kyokushin karate background like I do. You think of Alexander Gustafsson, former title contender, and then it's like, oh well, who else is there? And then maybe now it's like, if you're a real MMA fan, you know of Marquand
Americani,
I can't pronounce names this morning. So so for any professionals that have been on Freya MMA and you hear this, if I butcher the names, I'm sorry. It's 9 a.m. in Canada, so I'm caffeinated, but I'm not as caffeinated as Reza is. Like, Reza is on point today, but
I've got to be always on point.
Oh yeah, you kind of sound like Dan Hardy. I'd like to say, like the way you talk, you come up, and that's a compliment. So
I'll take that as a compliment.
I love how he breaks stuff down. So it's funny, you said Sweden. You came to Sweden in 2012. MMA was still kind of seen because of Gustafsson. It was known, but it was still kind of in like that. Remember what happened with Zuffa in the early days, where it was still kind of like people were kind of like shying away from it because they didn't know like what was going on. It kind of felt like Sweden was kind of in that chapter of mixed martial arts in Sweden, because the other sports in Sweden are ice hockey, soccer. It's a winter sport country, like I'm from Canada, and hockey is like, it's like right now today, like Sweden's playing with their world junior team, and so they have a very rich hockey history, and we consider Sweden like our northern cousin in hockey. But I mean, combat sports, it's, as you said, it's rumbling. And what do you think has led to that?
Well, through the history, I know you're a history guy, but through the history, we'll see that combat sports has not been quite legal in Scandinavia for so long. I mean, I think it's was still coming up. Norway is not allowed to do boxing events, and Iceland, there is no combat sports at all. So I think it was just a thing of we were starting a bit later than the rest of Europe. But due to the events of UFC coming to Stockholm and things like that, it really has been growing and growing. And I really do think now, if you ask everyone in the nation who Alexander Gustafsson is, they could give you an answer. So I really do think it's putting it out there and pushing the brand. Plus, we do have the small towns that do have their own MMA gyms now. So I think that is also helping. So it's not all stars and Alexander Gustafsson here anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of up and comers that are coming. You were telling me about one guy that's going to Cage Warriors, and I think the path to get to the big promotions, whether it's ONE FC, the Bellators, the UFCs, go through Cage Warriors, and that's kind of your path. Like Conor McGregor, some guy named Conor McGregor. I'm gonna quote you because I gave the names of who went there. And I'm like, some guy named Conor McGregor. I mean, who knows? He must be some random guy. And I'm just kidding. The double champ.
I think everyone's heard of him. Maybe.
Maybe even my mom, who's like 65, is like heard of him. She's like Conor McGregor. She's like, isn't that guy that's fighting that Floyd Mayweather guy? And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, I don't think. And my mom knows nothing about mixed martial arts, but she's like, I hear him. She's like, I hear him talk, and I think he has a shot against Floyd. Now this was again in 2017, so my mom knows, like, she doesn't know anything, but she likes Conor even though she doesn't know him. There's also Michael Bisping, Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort. There's like so many names that came out of Cage Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. So it is like the European pathway to the UFC, like you're saying. Of course, there are other events and other promotions. We have Superior Challenge here in Sweden, which has pushed the likes of Pani Kianzad, Alexander Gustafsson, Magnus Cedenblad, and people like that. But I really do think right now it is Cage Warriors, which is the way.
Definitely, most definitely, because just look at the alumni that have come out there too. Even Bisping, I forgot I was about to mention, first British European champion in mixed martial arts, and one of the ambassadors for European MMA. I mean, we could also say Gus. If Gus was in an alternative universe where there's no John Jones, no Daniel Cormier, I think he'd be a champion, and I think he would be one of the ambassadors for Northern MMA.
And now we have a guy that maybe not everyone knows the name of, but Hamza Chimaev, that is coming out of Stockholm, Sweden. Everyone's looking at him to be now the new next champ. So
are there a lot of Chechens and Dagestanis that have immigrated to Sweden? Because Kamza, like, his story is he's Swedish, but he's of Chechen descent. And I'm noticing a lot of these Chechens, like whether they come from out of directly Russia, but a lot of them, like Kamza, have Swedish passports.
Yeah, so I think it was a mass immigration to Sweden from places like Iran, Afghanistan, Chechnya, or the Russian kind of parts, shall I say, and a lot from Yugoslavia or the former Yugoslavia as well. So yeah, there is a lot of ethnic groups in Sweden that are now calling Sweden home, like myself, I guess.
Yeah, you're an interest. Yeah, you said you were born in the UK and you moved over to Sweden in 2012, and yeah, it's and like I'd definitely love to visit Sweden. I think we all know why. Every guy wants to go there to. We love Scandinavian women. It's one of the fine beauties of other than look, I don't want to general. It's let's be honest. Scandinavia's got a rich sports history, a rich winter history. Definitely would love to see the winter, but I'm not gonna lie. If I ended up with a Scandinavian woman, it's pretty good. I have to say, it's a nice feather in my cap.
Yeah, I did speak to you privately and said I do have the best of both worlds because my wife is Swedish and Latina as well, so she's mixed. So that's one of the reasons I came over here as well.
There's a lot of there's a lot of Iranians mixed with Swedish too that I've noticed, like Mika Zibanejad, an NHL star who plays for the New York Rangers. His dad is Iranian and his mother, his mom is, it's weird. His mom was like born in Finland, but she considers herself Swedish. So but then again, Swedes and Finns, they're kind of cousins, even though it's a different language completely and a kind of a different culture. But that's one.
I'm sorry for any follower of mine that got offended by that, but yeah, sure, go on.
Yeah, don't be offended. I love Scandinavian culture. I love the history. As mentioned, I've looked at Norse mythology and ice hockey. Like I can name hockey players off like Sweden, like who are champions. But very rich history. Lovely people though too. Like I've met a few Scandinavians. Like when I trained in Kyokushin, they're the most happy-go-lucky people. I don't know what that is. What do you think why that? How is it that Scandinavians are like so happy-go-lucky, being in the northern cold?
I don't know. Like, I mean, when I came over here, I guess I did see a different way of life. I mean, you'll see 90-year-olds cycling on the streets, and that's not really a thing that you will see down in the UK, or at least in London for sure. I mean, I think it is just a thing of, you know, they're breathing in a different air. They're loving life. They're thriving on life, and maybe they are highly caffeinated as well, like we are right now. So,
What
um,
what's the diet like over there for you guys? Like, because like you said, 90-year-olds riding cyclists, and there's quite a few centurions that like are very sharp-witted still, that can do stuff and they can move around. So what's like the diet like mainly over there for nutrition?
um, I guess there's a lot of local produce. I think that is probably what is doing the real health thing here. I mean, not many people like to buy meat from other countries. They most likely would like to buy uh, local produce. A lot of fish, obviously, with Scandinavian, and I think it is just a thing of exercise.
That makes sense. Yes. And they always have winter sports, they have the summer sports, they have the fall to also best of both worlds. I mean, it's kind of the same in Canada, but when it hits winter here, it's like a different kind of cold. It's like we're dropping a million F bombs on in
Mm.
our cars when we try to put the heater on it. It's like that's what it's like, especially in Quebec where they speak French. So it's there's all the French swearing when it's really cold, or like right now we're getting snow today as we speak. Outside my window, we're expected about 10 centimeters. And it's definitely, as mentioned, I love the one thing I know about Finland and Sweden, they love Canadians. So when I go there, I have to definitely wear something Canada, so they know that.
A hockey top, maybe.
Yes, I'm gonna buy gotta buy a Team Canada t-shirt or something, and then that way I'll wear it around, so they're like, okay, we know he's not American. So
Yeah, I mean, recently here we were supposed to have snow. I mean, it's the winter, but it's been quite a warm one. We've had a few spells of snow, but nothing that's really stayed. But I guess I'm not really sure how it is in Canada, but over here our winters are dark, and I think for around a month now, or at least in October, there was no November, sorry, no sun for a month, like
it
nothing coming through the clouds, complete darkness.
it goes dark at 4 p.m. in Canada. Like in winter, it's 4 p.m. It goes dark, and then yeah, it's kind of similar, but it's not as. I think it's because we're not as north, like because you guys are on like the
Mm.
Arctic Circle, basically.
Mhm.
So that's why. Have you ever been to Finland, by the way?
Not yet. I travel a lot in my work, and there has been opportunities to go, but I've not yet been to Finland. But I have worked in the Arctic Circle, so like one of the most northern cities in Sweden. I was there in one December, and then the next December I flew to the Caribbean to work there. So a bit of a difference in temperatures.
That's awesome. And so, what got you into starting Freya MMA exactly? Like, what was how did that happen?
So I'll start at the beginning, which I guess is the beginning of me. So when I was younger, I was always a fan in, I guess you would call it professional wrestling, but like the old WWF, WCW kind of days. Uh, just the kind of ideology of like who is best in physical competing that is not, you know, hitting a ball or a puck or anything like that. Um, and then yeah, through the childhood, obviously I found out that it was not as real as my mind conceived it. I don't want to give away any spoilers to those that may still be big fans of it. I don't want to offend anyone. But then there was a dark point where I was kind of looking for my next niche kind of thing to follow, and then I came across the Ultimate Fighter, which around this time it was also the time of, you know, Big Brother and things were kind of getting quite big. So it was a reality TV show, plus there was actual combat in it. So then from that, I can't remember what the year it was. I think it might have even been one of the first Ultimate Fighters. So then from that, the ball started rolling of me starting to watch almost every UFC event. Obviously, we're in Europe, it's a bit hard. Um, so then starting to love and really analyze MMA, because that's what I like to do when I have an interest in something. I just go straight into it. I
Me too.
dive headfirst into everything. So that's why I was analyzing a lot of movements, a lot of combos, and in my mind I would think what does work, what doesn't work. met my now wife when we was in London and decided that there is better opportunities to move to Sweden. Then I heard about the I would say underground, but the local Swedish events, so the amateur events and the amateur teams and everything. Found out about that and decided that they weren't getting enough coverage in Sweden, in Europe, and worldwide. I mean, the IMF championships should be a big thing. It's an amateur MMA world championships. So I decided to start a platform for what I guess some would call the voiceless in MMA, and treated them exactly like I would treat the pros. I mean, if you look at my YouTube channel, one week I'll have a top featherweight in Arnold Allen in the UFC, and then the next week I'll have an amateur Swedish fighter. I mean, I feel like anyone that puts in the dedication and the work to become a top athlete should have their word spread and their name spread, and the success that should be coming to them. So it was a thing of first of all being different to all of the other MMA websites. Um, and again, like I said, I want to push the platform and not myself. I'm not going to be the next Ariel Helwani or the next Luke
Brett
Thomas.
Okamoto.
Yeah, I'm not really putting my face out there. I mean, if I could do the podcast and not show my face and just have the fighter talking, I would. But a lot of them do need that bit of push to get to know them. So most of all for MMA, but I guess, like I said in this podcast, you're talking to me, so you got me.
Exactly. No, I totally get it, and it's understandable. I'm kind of the same way too. I don't know if you know of the journalist named James Lynch from the Score MMA.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me the best advice, which you just basically you put in practice is interview the amateurs. You're not going to get the stars right away. If you try to interview the stars right away, you're going to get a million no's. You're going to give up. You have to build up, because when those amateurs become the pros, they're going to remember you, and then they're going to refer you. They'll be like, hey, you know what? And let's say they know a fighter that you want to get on. They might have a relation to them through an agent or something, and the agent could remember you. So it's a whole like chain of events that compound. It's like you really want to build it properly, which you're doing. And shout out to that, like giving amateurs like the platform they seek, and then having a pro next week. And it must make them feel like the promotions feel like they can welcome you in with open arms, and they're like, what, Freya MMA is here, hey, this is the guy you should interview, hey, this is the guy that's coming up, he's about to do this and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it must be really fun, like giving them a shot and then realizing how rewarding it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I like to come to fighters, promoters, management companies with complete honesty. So, some fighters have come to me and told me about fights, but have been like, you can't release it though, which I think the other media sources might, just to get that exclusive kind of thing and get the followers. But we are 100% organic. Of course, we put money into the platform to make it, a bit more high quality. We buy mics, we buy cameras, we buy things like that. But we're never out there buying followers to get like the other people to come onto our show kind of thing. So we always say, our interviews are going to be straight out freestyled. We don't have a script to go off of. We don't have anything like that. And I mean, I think that kind of comes with a little bit of, it makes a little bit of respect in the fighters and the promoters and the managers themselves.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing, because I see the similarities with you and James. Because some journalists, when you try to talk to them, they'll be like, okay, well, I'll be like, can you kind of help me get access to this fighter? And they'll be like, no, I don't want. It's like you're trying to take away, and it's like, guys, there's enough success to go around. Like, for example, the fighter that I've wanted to get on my show so badly, it's gonna happen one day. It's a pipe. It's a goal. Is Gegard Mousasi. And James Lynch could have said, no, I'm not going to help you. But James gave me the tips of like what to do. And he's like, hey, you want Gegard? He's like, you want a legend like Gegard on your show? Here's what you're going to do. He's like, here's the tips I'm going to give you. Whether you do it or not, that's your call. He's like, I see you're going to get him on eventually. It might take longer. And it's like, even with you, like, like when we first spoke, like I said, hey, I said, I really liked that interview with Jack Hermanson, and I just want people to know, like, it's because of you that, like, I was able to connect with Hermanson's team. So I really appreciate that. And it's like, and that's what I love about this game. Like there's there's a lot of journalists that, like, not journalists, but I see you more as like a guy that's passionate about the sport. So I want to be careful with my wording, but you know, you're the kind of guy that lives in abundance, where it's like there's enough to go around for everybody. And it's like, I'm not going to withhold you from having a guest. Like if someone told me and said, my first professional guest I had on my last show called Beyond the Fight, before I changed, rebranded, was John Fitch. And people were like, how do I get access to John Fitch? And I said, here's his Twitter, here's his Instagram, comment, have him message you. And he's going to make the time. Like I don't, it benefits me more to give the information. Cause it's like I'm not, this is not my job. Like my day job is I work in telecom, and, you know, this is just a hobby. And if it gets bigger, like, you know, what you're doing, then great, you know, but it's like you know, I'm not here to be the next Ariel Helwani. I'm not here to be the next Brett Okamoto or Luke Thomas. This is a Drew experience. It's Freya MMA. You know, we do our own thing basically.
Yeah, and like I'm glad to hear that I'm helped you in some way, because like you're saying, all that my goal is to grow the sport. So if Jack Hermanson comes onto your show and gets between 2 or 2,000 new followers from Canada, then I guess I've done my due diligence and helped in some way. And that's all I'm really looking to do. And yeah, for me, like when me and my wife kind of started to make Freya MMA, we kind of come up with the slogan of it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. Because that's exactly what it is for the amateur fighters. I guess for the pro fighters, it's now a job or a career. But, you know, the amateur fighters, they're not getting paid or anything, but it's not exactly a hobby because they're putting everything into it. So I feel like I should also put everything into them as well. And if you are looking to portray this, then I'm also going to put everything into helping you as well. So that's just the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, that's how I am too. Like, you know, it's like I just like talking to people. Like, and you know, like when I scored my interview with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that's when I said I can do this. Because what I did was, I basically called the gym. Like I cold called the gym because I used to work in phone sales. I used to work in telemarketing. So you take those skills. So shout out to my old mentor, Matt, who really taught me how to be a good salesman. I hope to get you on soon, Maddie. But yeah, because I want you to know, like, this is how I got one of my guests. So the story was anyways, I digress. I just like giving shout outs to people because, like, you know, I live in abundance, you know. So I call the gym and someone picks up, and I thought it was the receptionist or one of the trainers, and it turns out it was Mrs. Thompson. So we started talking, her and I, and then she's like, and I was very honest. I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to help promote upstate karate. I'm a big fan. I love what you guys do with the community. I get a call from Steven's coach after. So Ray said, do you want me to come on? And he's like, I said, why don't we bring everybody on? And he's like, okay, I'll bring on Steven and Evan. So we had a 3-way audio call to record it. And it was one of the best podcasts I've ever done, just to like do it. And, you know, that's what I love about the sport. Cause if you look at other sports like hockey, soccer, they don't make the time for you. They're in their own world. There's a lot of prima donnaism, a lot of egos, but in MMA, cause it's so humble, cause fighting is just so different. Whether it's the amateurs or pros, they're going to make time for you. Like there's Hermanson, then Nick Dalby recently is going to come on soon, but he's just been very busy. But Dalby's another one. Like I just love the fighters. Like this is it's a lifestyle for me too. Like I do martial arts and I live by that now.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, we were just doing like written interviews, like articles kind of thing. And I think Dalby was one of the first ones as well. That was also like, you know, yeah, let's do it, fuck it, kind of thing. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. So then we kind of wrote an article with him and everything. So, and I guess when they start becoming, I guess we could say, more successful, and then they start getting managers involved, that's when it could start getting a bit more cloudy. I mean, I've heard the stories on how to get a interview with that guy, Conor McGregor, or whatever his name is. I mean, apparently you've got to go through this whole system of, you know, going through the management and then going through the clubs and things like that. So like, we're not going to push too hard to get one person. It's more of the thing of, hey, we're an open platform. Of course, we will ask the people that have upcoming fights and everything. But if you're a fighter out there that wants to let out a message to a broader like horizon, then contact us or contact you. Both ways it works.
Exactly. No, it's very interesting because a lot of people come into this, they want to get the stars, as we were mentioning, Connor, the Izzies, the John Jones, the George St. Pierre's. Like my first show, because I do Kyokushin, and like I had some friends that train with George. Like some people are like, when you getting George on, you can do it. It's like, guys, it's like, stop putting pressure on me. It's like, I'll get him when I get him. So just until then, it's like, just shut. It's like, just like, you know, Dave, you ever watch the Dave Chappelle skit where he's playing what if there was at the time a black president, like, and he goes in the microphones, he's like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, just like when people start asking me for specific guests when they're coming on, I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want to be bothered. It's like, when it happens, it happens.
And then we also have the people that's like, you know, hasn't fought in like 10 years, and then they're like, oh, we see that you have an MMA podcast. I used to be a fighter, and it's like, yeah, but like let's create something. Let's bring something out from this rather than just kind of going on a show and be like, hey, my name is, and then there's nothing really there. So I guess the rapport has to be right. You know what I mean?
It really does. It really does. Like, for example, one of my like now, like I'm getting like I'm planning to get on. Do you know of the Middle Eastern promotion, UAE Warriors? So the recent champion in the bantamweight, Xavier Aloui, he's from Montreal. Like I've hosted him on my last show too. Amazing stand-up guy. Like those are the guys I want to give attention to, like the up-and-comers. Like yes, they're pros, but it's in the smaller promotions to build their name. Like these are the amateurs, like the ones that only have like say maybe 1,000 fans watching, maybe 3,000 fans in attendance. And, you know, the paychecks aren't great, but, you know, these are like belts that will help get you into the promotion. Like look at Hermanson. He got into the UFC from winning Cage Warriors too, right? He's another champion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are these European shows that, especially in Sweden, I've been trying to talk to promoters and saying, do everything in English so that you will get that kind of broad spectators kind of thing. You know, you want the fans from other countries to be watching your shows. So last year Superior Challenge had their show, which is now they have started doing the option that you can get English commentators and things like that. And the main event of that fight between Tobias Harila and Adam Westland, man, everyone should watch that fight. That is up there with like top UFC fights. So that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping that even though we are Swedish, or they are a Swedish promotion, that it does get out there to the broad spectrum. And Tobias Harila is the guy that is actually now signed to Cage Warriors, and Adam Westland, I hope something will be coming up with him soon, because he is a talent with a lot of heart as well.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing. Like fighting is fighting. There's no like whether it's Swedish or English. You want the commentary to be in your language of choice, so you understand what's being said. But the sport is global. Like sometimes I like to even say like this is the most global sport more than soccer, because you have men and women competing on in the same cage. It doesn't discriminate. It's about who has better skill and who shows up ready to compete, and who's more disciplined.
Yeah, and I mean, also when we was building the platform, we was thinking of names, because everyone kind of comes to us and it's like, why Freya MMA? I mean, a lot of fighters I speak to first think I'm a woman because we come up Freya MMA kind of thing. But you are a fan of Norse mythology, and that's exactly where it comes from. I mean, when people think of Freya here, obviously they think of a goddess that's to do with love and everything. But if you look deeper into that, and this is the kind of feeling that I have with mixed martial arts, and that is that Freya is the goddess of love and passion and war, should I say, as well. But she was also married to madness, the god of madness. So like what I think of, you know, mixed martial arts, it can be madness sometimes, but there is passion going into it. So it was with that kind of ideology that I kind of come up with the name as well.
Very genius, like better than my idea. Like me, like it's like my other show I had was, it was called Beyond the Fight. But then I kept
Mhm,
having like the same discipline on, because like I'm a karate, my background is full contact karate, aka Kyokushin, and it was great. I loved the guests, but it was just kind of the same thing and became autonomous and repetitive. And then I said, okay, I need something different. So that's why I came up with the Drew Experience. It's kind of like the Joe Rogan experience, but I got in
mhm,
like there was like one of the episodes where they said, do a podcast with your name, because no one can take your name away from you. So that's why I got the Drew Experience. And it
mhm,
was Street Fighter 2 logo, because you think of it, we're all born in either the late 80s or the early 90s. That's our generation. And when you think of
mhm.
fighting, it's not Tekken. Like Tekken came out more in the 90s. It's Street Fighter 2. It's the iconic Hadouken, Ryu,
Everyone
Ken.
recognizes it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what went into it. And yeah, it's like the goal is to like get like, it's just to talk to everybody. Like, and I said, it's 80% combat sports, but 20% could be like a history guest, or I might have
Mhm.
maybe when times are calmer, a political guest. But for now, it's like I kind of like just want to keep it very civil, because I don't want to cause division. There's life is too short to be divided.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, life and mentality is also a big factor in our podcast as well. I mean, not only the mentality of going into a fight, but the mentality of the situations that we're in today. I mean, we're not exactly in the lightest of times, but it is what it is.
What's it like in Sweden right now? Because in Canada, we're kind of in another lockdown again, especially in Quebec, where it's like the hardest hit province of COVID. So I know Sweden was kind of like not doing anything at first. They kind of just said, okay, well, we'll kind of just do herd immunity. But what's
Mhm.
going on now? Because I heard like it's night and day over there.
So I guess I could maybe count myself as blessed because in Sweden they can't do any restrictions because that is actually a like it goes against our freedom, our rights of freedom. So they can't actually give us any lockdown. It's not possible. It's not politically correct or anything like that. So they've come out with recommendations that people are taking. I guess it is a little bit quieter, but it's not really anything that has hit us hard enough to um, bring our mental state lower, like it has in, for example, London. They are in like tier 4 right now. So
Oh, London's
there's
a
a lot of
mess. London
yeah.
is a mess. Like we hear it in the news because think of it, we're kind of Commonwealth cousins because Canada, Britain. So we get the news from the
Mhm.
UK, and it's like Canada's bad, but it's like the UK. They're saying one thing and then they do another, then they do another,
Mhm.
and then go off the
It gets so
rails.
confusing. It gets so confusing.
So like, is
So
your family still there?
yeah, my side of the family is still all in the UK. I'm hoping I'll go and see them as soon as this kind of stuff calms down. But yeah, everyone's kind of okay. I have a few of my relatives that is working in the health service there, the NHS. So shout out to them and keep doing a good job.
Yeah, yeah. And so let me ask you this, because I know we all love martial arts, and we love combat sports. And before we were recording, we were talking about Cobra Kai. I'm not going to
Mhm.
spoil it for anyone who knows season 3 came out. But are you a Marvel fan too? Like, have you watched the series such as Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage,
Yeah,
Defenders?
I've kind of dabbled in them a bit. I've probably gone through the Marvel cinematic movies and everything like that. But with TV shows, I guess I don't really have so much time divided with my home life, my work life, and then my MMA life. So, but Cobra Kai, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna watch through that one. I'm usually a bit late when jumping into shows. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
I think I just watched. I forgot which one it was. I watched a recent, or not a recent. I watched a series all the way through recently that had come out years ago that everyone was kind of hyped upon. Like I still haven't seen Game of Thrones, so
I like you. You're my new best friend. I mean, I love Game of Thrones too, but I love hearing people like you say, I never watched it yet, and everyone like shames them. It's like, dude, I don't shame you. I applaud you. Like you are a hero. You are a mythical Norse hero.
I mean, ask me if I watched if I'm up to date with all the MMA shows. I'll be like, yeah, but ask me if I've seen The Sopranos. I'll be like, no, not yet.
I understand. One of the best documentaries, I don't know if you saw it, was the ESPN 30 for 30 Chuck and Tito. And this is something I really want to talk to you about. Like, we didn't talk about this, but I'm really tired of people like looking at Habib and Connor and, you know, John, and then like maybe early George. I'm not taking anything away from them. But if you really want to understand the sport, you have to look at the old days. Like
Hmm.
for example, like you have to watch the old Zuffa shows. Get yourself a Fight Pass membership. If you say you don't have money, well, look at what you're spending on. And if you're an MMA fan, make a cutback in one thing and go look at the Fight Encyclopedia. I want people to really understand before Connor, before Khabib, before DC and John Jones, there was Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. And I sound like a
Hmm.
dead horse beating this, but you know your MMA too. And do you remember like how important do you think these days those that period is to understand where the sport is now?
Well, I guess if anyone is pro wrestling fans, I guess it was the Attitude Era. Oh, oh, there we go. Mic bump. The Attitude Era of that time. So it kind of brought the sport into the showbiz and the spectacle of what it is today. I mean, press conferences before that were dull. Was there even press conferences before that? But then you have a talker like Tito Ortiz, and then just a straight up killer like Chuck Liddell. It is those times that you should see. That is when UFC started. Before that, it was the Ultimate Fighter. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah, because it was under the SEG Bob Meyerowitz era where
Mm.
it was the Ultimate Fighter. But then Zuffa came in, and then the story is like Frank Fertitta or Lorenzo looked at the thing UFC, and that's what,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was their first show on February 28th of 2001, where Tito fought Evan Tanner. But nothing is better. There's two iconic moments of that era. When Tito went on the Best Damn Sports Show, as it was known as back in the day, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it was him and Ken on separate screens, and Tito's like, you see this? This is the MGM Grand. Up here on like some random floor, no one gives a shit. Is Ken Shamrock's room. Up mine is the penthouse. So after I beat Ken Shamrock, if you want to come up, this is where I'm gonna be because I'm gonna make Ken Shamrock my bitch. And then you have Ken Shamrock like with his intro, like his intro was like he had, it's just him repeating Tito Ortiz as a punk and going off on him. Like that was the best rivalry of that era. And I firmly believe that those two, whether you know it or not, Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz saved the UFC because remember, it was on the brink. And
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Buffer and John McCarthy said UFC 40 had to succeed. They said if it didn't succeed, the sport would be on the History Channel one day, and that was the first one where they got the 100K pay-per-view buys. Chuck Liddell fought a dangerous Babalu Sabral on short notice just to be a backup fighter, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing is more iconic when he does that iconic like Rah! And he's going around the camera just yelling, I want my fucking belt. Give me
Mm-hmm.
my fucking belt. Chucker. And he's like, Tito or Ken. I don't give a fuck who it is. I'm getting that belt. And it's iconic. Like, I think that UFC 40 is the most, other than UFC 205 and 100, I think 40 deserves, it has to be up there as the top three most iconic.
Maybe we can put our mindsets together and come up with a list of the 10 UFC bouts that you have to watch to understand the
The
UFC.
history. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think we should do. I mean, I'm Forrest Griffin versus Bonner will be on that,
It
and
has to. That has to.
those kind of fights that did build what we have today. So
I also would say as well, say what you want about Brock Lesnar, but UFC 100 because it was the centennial, and just
mhm.
can you believe George St. Pierre fought in a co-main event? That's like one of the only times he's ever fought in a co-main. That's actually the only time he fought on a co-main as a champion.
Mm.
Because, and you look at that UFC 100 card, you had so many future champions: Michael Bisping, Dan Henderson, George, Brock, Frank Mir, some guy named John Jones coming up fighting.
Good, good.
Yeah, John Bones
uh,
Jones. You ever heard of him?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Is that the heavyweight or?
Light now heavyweight, but light heavyweight
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah, no. But no, that UFC 100 card too is one of my favorites, especially when Brock just pummels Mir and then he just goes up like an angry pit bull to the cage, starts bashing it, like drooling with this thing. It's iconic.
Is that the one where if you watch back the interview, it's completely different to what it was?
Yeah,
Is that
because
the
he
one
said
where he?
he said
Yeah, that one
Coors
is
Light.
like
I'm
fuck.
drinking a
Yeah, fuck Buzz Light.
fuck Bud Light because Coors Light isn't because like one of them isn't paying me enough. And then he was
Yeah.
like, Frank Mir has a horseshoe up his ass. And I
Mm-hmm.
took that SOB out and I stuck him with the head with it. And then they're like, what are you doing now? And he's like, I'm going to go home. He's like, I'm going to get on top of my wife. And it was like, and he got into a lot of trouble after that. But you know what? It got eyes on the sport.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, I'm not really a fan of when the press conferences cross the line, and the shit talking kind of goes beyond that. But Khabib and Conor, their whole rivalry brought so many eyes to the sport. The fight after the fight brought eyes to the sport. So it is what it is, I guess. All publicity is good publicity when it comes down to it.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I got into MMA when I'm a very late bloomer. So for those like who listen to your show, like I only got into MMA in 2015. So here's what happened. So I was always kind of on and off, like very, very on and off, but I only knew like 3 fighters back in the 4 fighters. It was Brock Lesnar, George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, and then John Jones when he won the belt off Shogun in 2011. And I was into hockey, huge hockey fan. Like for any Freya MMA, for any Freya MMA guys who know hockey, if you want to talk hockey with me, you can message me on Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah,
And
it goes straight over my head most of the time.
yeah. And what happened was, so so after like my dad passed away in 2014, I kind of lost interest in hockey, and I had interest, but like what happened was that was the DC John Jones 1 press conference where it's like the, hey pussy, you still there? I wish they let me live next door to you so I could just spit in your face. And that's when I was like, oh, I kind of like John Jones now. Cause I like art. When I watch John Jones fight, it's like watching like Kobe Bryant like set up a play. It's like watching Michael Jordan like just dominate. That's what how I look at John Jones. And it's the Fraser Ali of our generation, that rivalry. And then I watched UFC 189 7 months later. And then that's when I really got into the sport. And then I would say it's UFC 194 because I watched that fight, not because of it wasn't because of the Aldo Connor knockout only that it got me. You said, okay, this is my sport now. It was the rock cold Chris Weidman fight. And I think that's a middleweight title fight that as it gets older with time, people appreciate it more because it was the first time there was no Anderson Silva fighting this guy. It was Chris Weidman fighting Luke Rockhold, the former Strikeforce champion.
Yeah, I mean, people can always come out with the what ifs kind of thing with the UFC. Like we were saying, what if John Jones and DC didn't exist? Where would Gus be? And it would be the kind of thing of what if Anderson Silva didn't clown around and play city and get knocked out by Chris Weidman, and what if he didn't break his leg on the second one kind of thing. So it's what ifs with the MMA is crazy.
So many. What if Jorge Masvidal took the fight more in advance with Kamaru Usman instead of a week's notice? Would it be much different? I mean, some say no, but I think if he had a proper training camp, I see Jorge, he has a chance at an upset, man, and that's another guy that I really love watching. I mean, I know you try to be unbiased, and so do I, but I have my biases. Like, I'm going to be honest, like I have my favorites that I love to watch, like the Musasis, the Wonder Boys, the Connors, the Izzy Adesanyas. I like Izzy, but I think Izzy's kind of gone off the rails a bit lately. So that's why I kind of like, I like the guys like Hermanson and Till. I wish they would have fought, man. That would have been such a good fight for European MMA.
That really would have been. It really would have been. I'm hoping that it can be revisited if Till doesn't go up in weight. I've heard some rumors about that as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fighters. I mean, what would have happened if Leon Edwards fought Jorge Masvidal directly after the incidents of the free piece and the soda kind of thing? It's the whole landscape of MMA can change in the flick of a switch, in one knockout, in one submission kind of thing. So I guess that's what's exciting about the sport as well.
That's what I love it, because there's so many intangibles, so many storylines can be made. You have a guy like Dana, whether you love him or hate him. Dana White has done so much for the sport, and I don't see him leaving anytime soon. I mean, if I see a successor, and this is like just my hypothesis, what I think he would do is there'd be one promoter. I think it would be DC, but I think Dana would help set him up very well. Like, I think Dana would really help give him the right people. And what I think I would do is, like, I don't know, like, if you follow soccer at all, like when they do or when you look at basketball, they do what's called like drafting, where they draft amateurs. What I would do is I would get like guys like, say, Rashad Evans, Michael Bisping, And yeah, those are the two I think of at the moment because
As like scouts kind of thing.
yeah, because they could scout talent. Look at Rashad Evans. He's the one that found John Jones. He found Kamaru Usman. He found Israel Adesanya. That's 3-0, man. 3-0. So the guy knows something about finding talent and getting stars. So I think Rashad Evans should be like someone like a scout to really scout out talent in America. And Michael Bisping being a champion, the example of perseverance, hard work, should be in charge of like Europe. But more central, like London, France, Germany, maybe Holland, like, and then someone like Gustafsson would be in charge of Northern Europe, because Northern Europe, you need to really, I think you need to have a very specific eye for finding those guys. Because you said like some of them, like they come up and then they disappear, but we need a guy like Gustafsson to help tell them, look, you lost a fight. It's not the end, like to give up. Like you got to keep going.
But thankfully we have great sites like Tapology. Shout out to Tapology on that one as well. That we have regional rankings. Like I know if you click on the Nordic region on Tapology, you'll see us for MMA, because we are covering that region kind of thing. And but yeah, I mean, my idea would be, if Dana White stepped down, there will have to be a X fighter in the position. I'm not really sure who it will be yet. I would also say that DC can be a bit biased towards his team and things like that. But other than scouts, I would say that they should invest in buying smaller promotions in each region, so that there would be a smaller UFC promotion in Scandinavia, and a smaller UFC promotion in Asia, and a smaller UFC promotion in the UK, like I guess Cage Warriors kind of is already. To that thing of, instead of this Dana White Contender Series, which, you know, one fight gives you the opportunity to get a contract, it should then instead be maybe tournament based. It should be the champions of these promotions will then go up to fight in the big league kind of thing. So then for UFC to be the global MMA, obviously aside from Bellator and PFL and things like that, but if specifically speaking about UFC, to then have regional promotions under the UFC's radar.
I like that, because did you read the Dog article about how Russia became such a dominant player in MMA? There was a whole story about it. It was like they bought M1 Global, UFC bought M1 Global, and they gave like a pipeline for them to get the Russian fighters into the UFC slowly. And M1 was under, I know M1 was under some, they had to really rebuild their brand. They had to really rebuild like their whole like roster, because there's a lot of things that happened before the whole, like when back in the days when there was like Affliction, there was Strike Force, there was like Elite XC, and then they're like, it's like some of the, like they got hammered like with like bad deals and whatnot, and so they had to really rebuild. And then King Mo said that there's going to be the next hotspot for UFC fighters is going to be in either Cuba or Dagestan, Russia. And Dagestan, he's like, is that unknown area where you see a guy like Khabib come out of. And look, he's proven right. Like M1 has given it, and now Khabib buying Gorilla Fight in
Eagles MMA kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think that's the strategy I think that they're trying to do. They really want to get that pipeline in there, both men and women from that part of the world. I think Khabib is going to get very good scouts. I think he's staying retired, if you ask me. I think he will be. I don't think he's going to fight. I think he's sticking to his word. And I think he's going to enjoy life, you know, owning a promotion or two and just scouting talent, you know, because he knows what it's like to get there. And it's just an interesting time right now. And that's what I think is. And I like what you're saying there. Get a tournament going, buy the smaller promotions, and don't just do the Contender Series where they have all the pressure, because then they might look really good on a Contender Series, but then they might, it's a different outcome when they start competing on actual cards. What's your take on Anthony Pettis going on to PFL? Because that was some big news recently.
I understand it. I feel like obviously he won't be climbing up and getting another shot. I think he kind of realized that. I don't have anything bad to say about Anthony Pettis, but I don't think that's the idea that UFC is going towards. You know, him getting another shot at the title. So I think it's a good move for him. I did think he was going over to Bellator.
Me too.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a good move. It's, you know, maybe his retirement plan of going in and winning $1 million and then sailing off to into the sunset. But who knows, man? Who knows?
I mean, I would have loved to see him with Sergio because they're very, very close. And I know Sergio was making money. And I know there was like even like another rumor that there was like, it's not, I don't know how true it is because you never know. Things can be, there's a lot of things that like he said, she said in MMA especially. But like I was hearing like some of the Rufus guys are going to let their contracts run out. And then, you know, when the roster, they don't get cut, they just run the contract. Then they go off to other promotions, except for, say, Paul Felder, because he's such a staple on the Contender Series. And but it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of Rufus guys go off because I think, you know, they want to like try to get those paydays before they all write off like Woodley. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think Woodley's getting a title shot anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that has kind of backed himself into a corner through his way of kind of trash talking and things like that. But you know, that's the way that this sport can sometimes be. I mean, the Scandinavian fans, they can be the most passionate and greatest fans in the world, but if you lose, then they can switch on you very, very quickly.
They let you know. They let you know. Right?
They let you know, telling you what you should have done from their sofa, kind of thing. And
oh no,
it's kind of a bit messy like that. But you know, those who don't do that, then shout out to you. I mean, there's a lot of fighters that do lose fights and then go onto social media and say like, you know, the people that did kind of message me when I win, it was like in the hundreds of thousands or in the tens of thousands. And then when I lose, there's like 10 messages being like, you know, stick your head up, you know, like you'll get back in there, kind of thing.
yeah,
That's a bit sad when it comes to the sport. I mean, fans should be fans.
Win or lose. It's like because there's the man in the arena quote by Teddy Roosevelt. Like whether you like, it's about the man who actually steps in the arena to actually say, because everyone says they want, you know, as Dana White said, everyone wants to be a fighter, but being a fighter isn't about signing autographs, banging broads, drinking alcohol. It's more than that, and you know it holds true.
Anyone that hasn't seen that, search it on YouTube. Dana White punking the cast of the Ultimate Fighter. Check that out, seriously.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. So KSW is another European promotion that's more like, it's not Northern Europe, but are there like some Scandinavian guys that are going to be competing in there too? Because KSW is now one of the premier promos as well.
So from what I know there is one guy who is from my town called Alexander Gustafsson, sorry, Andreas Gustafsson.
Oh, no relation, probably.
No relation. He prefers to go under the name, the fight name Bane. So his nickname is BG in the club, kind of thing. He is also he's fought on the undercard of Cage Warriors. He's fought on the regional scenes here. Amazing guy. He looks like a beast. He fits into KSW very well. He fights with the whole skinhead and tattoos kind of thing, like the Polish fans like. So I think he's had one fight there already, and I think he has signed a multi-fight contract for them. So keep your eye out for Andreas Gustafsson. Okay, Andreas
Bane Gustafsson.
Exactly.
I like that. He's probably going to show up with the mask because KSW, they're known for their spectacle, like kind of like that Attitude Era, Pride FC days. And like the guy, Mahmed Kadyrov, once drove in on a Porsche, like to end his entrance. And it's like, so KSW is doing some pretty rad stuff. Like I once went to, have you heard of the welterweight champion, Roberto Robocop Soldic?
It doesn't ring a bell at the moment.
Okay, so he's like their welterweight champion in KSW right now. He's from Croatia, but he fights there. And I was asking him one time when I met him, because he was training in Montreal to get ready to fight Marius Zaromskis before the COVID pandemic. And I'm like, what's it like fighting under KSW? And, you know, we all think that if you come to the UFC, it's the be-all, end-all, because if you win, you'll get the sponsorships. But Europe too, man. I mean, you know, some of these guys make a career out of there, and they're getting paid very handsomely, sometimes even better. Like, is that actually myth, or is that actually fact too? Because I do believe it, but it depends on the fighter.
I think that is actually a fact. I mean, there is some promotions that you go into with the goal of getting seen by these bigger promotions like PFL, Bellator, Cage Warriors, UFC. But another one to look out for from the European scene is Fen, F-E-N, from Poland. Also a massive promotion. Yeah, KSW. We've got a lot, and also now we have struck the deal. My hometown promotion of Fight Club Rush, which is going to be being shown on Fight Pass very soon. I think the first time they're going to be on there is in March, so keep your eye out for that as well. Then you're going to see some rising stars coming out of not only Sweden but Scandinavia.
That's amazing. Like Denmark, Iceland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland.
Let's talk a bit about Iceland as well, because
Oh yeah, we
Iceland,
almost forgot it. I sorry, people in Iceland.
Iceland is a crazy one. Iceland has some complete warriors. I mean, if you think of Icelandic MMA, you think of Gunnar Nelson. And him and his family really have paved the way in a lot of European MMA. If you don't know the history there, you can probably look that up. But there are some great fighters coming out of Iceland. You got to think that Iceland, that small nation with probably one MMA gym, is going to be making a lot of noise like very soon.
It's crazy. Yeah, Iceland is definitely one country that I've been really wanting. That like it's like I forget it's in Scandinavia because it's kind of like the border between Europe and North America. When you think of it, it's kind of that border country. But yeah, I mean Gunnar Nelson, BJJ wizard, and it's unfortunate now like where he's at in his career, but before he was a killer. Like he wasn't just seen as Connor's old training partner, like he was a legitimate welterweight fighter, but met Damian Maia, and we all know how that goes when you get into the cage with that tarantula.
And Gunnar Nelson as well, such a fan favorite. People just were magnetized to him. I mean, not a guy that says much, and obviously goes into the cage with a stone face kind of look, but people seem to love that. But yeah, that's a lot of talent coming out of Iceland. So a little kind of hint, wink, wink. Check out Fight Club Rush on the next show. You'll be seeing some great Icelandic talent there.
There's also Finland too. Like you said, there's a guy. Who's the guy that you sent me? He's got an English name, but he fights in Finland, and he's African.
Oh yeah, Edward Walls.
Edward Wills, yeah, like I love what I love about these Scandinavian countries. These guys, they're not born there, but they're adopted by the country, and that's something that, like, yeah,
definitely representing. I mean, it's like that. I mean, look at Reza Madadi. You would have think, seeing his name, that he's representing, Swedish MMA when he's going out there and fighting. Look at Khamzat Chimaev. Also, you wouldn't think that he's representing Swedish MMA when you kind of look at the name, but these guys have definitely, found the Swedish MMA community and the family of it, and it's now kind of pushing the name out there as well.
How is Khamzat's following in Sweden right now? Because in North America, it's huge. Because it's
yeah. If we're gonna go into that, yes, it is huge. I've seen recently, because he's gone over to Russia, I think for some press and stuff like that. And when he got off the plane, it was flags, it was crowds, it was people taking photos of him. He could barely get out the airport. He is the new superstar in MMA. And I knew that this topic was going to come up, and obviously I have been trying to get him on my show as well. But speaking to his main training partner, which, may I add, is a heavyweight.
Is it the Georgian guy?
Yes, exactly. The people's champ, Irman's Magic. So I don't know of many welterweight / middleweights that spar and train with heavyweights, that go in the gym and one of his routines is to just lift this guy over and over again. But yeah, Irman's Magic has said that Khamzat Chimaev outside of the gym is just the sweetest, nicest guy. The guy that will take off his jacket and give it to you if you're cold, kind of thing. But when in the gym, never says no. You're sparring that guy. Okay. You're doing 100 deadlifts with this heavy weight on your back. Okay. It's just, when he's in the gym, he sees everything as a competition, and he shows both his trainers and his fellow gym members that everyone can do it. We can all do this, and let's just get through the training with no complaints and get it done. I think
Yeah,
that mentality is what's going to bring him far.
I think he's going to be, I think eventually what we're going to see happen is I think Kamaru is just going to, this is just my hypothesis. So I have a lot of hypotheses. I think Kamaru is going to dominate the welterweight division, but eventually he's going to get bored. And you know what, Izzy, I think what they're going to do, I do think that John Jones fight's going to happen with Israel Adesanya. Dana wants it. They're going to throw the money bags at both of them. So I think what we're going to see is Izzy's going to go up to 205 to get that super fight. And we're going to see Kamaru move up to middleweight because I think Kamaru could even compete at middleweight. He's going to vacate the title because I think after the whole super fight era of like champ, they kind of want to like keep the belts going. And, you know, I see Hamzat winning the 170. I don't see that many people giving him problems. I mean, he's a very mentally strong guy. As you said, everything's a competition in the gym and in the cage. So I see Hamzat as a future welterweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his physique and you compare him to the middleweights of like Yoel Romero or, you know, things like that, you would think that it would have really worked, but he's got freak strength. He's got freak strength. He really does. And speaking of like, you know, going back in the days and analyzing fights and everything like that, I was live at his second pro fight. I was there, like in the building. Just seeing the guy walk in, I was like, "There's something special about this. There's something special about this guy."
It's like
And
that
this was
Connor.
before
It's
he
like
went
that
to
Connor
Brave.
effect, right?
Yeah, this was even before he went to the Middle East and competed there. Just seeing him fight, you would think, yeah, okay, this is something special. And I'm like, it's great that he's getting these opportunities, and I hope it doesn't go too fast like it can with some fighters. But looking forward to seeing him back in the cage soon.
Me too. I hope that Leon Edwards fight actually happens. Like the new Tony Khabib fight already.
Yeah.
It's like we already have the sequel for it. Another fight that I wanted to ask you about is, oh my gosh, I had it at the tip of my tongue and I almost forgot, but it has to do with what was it? Oh yes, because you said something special about Hamzat. Alex Pereira, the one that beat Israel Adesanya in kickboxing, is now making his way in MMA. But everyone's saying, oh, this is the guy that's going to beat Stylebender. I don't think so. In MMA, it's different. I mean, you know, there's levels to this. And yes, he has knockout power. He knocked the guy out in like 1:45 seconds. But who's he fighting in Brave? Who's he fighting in these other promotions that are like...
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, like, do you think Pereira is another one when he comes in eventually? Do you think it's too little too late? Because he's 35. You don't want to say never, but it's like you look at what he's been specialized in and now he's only coming into MMA.
Well, I'm sure that the UFC will promote the shit out of it. If you know, they love bringing up old videotapes of people getting knocked out and, you know, dollies going through windows and stuff like that, just to heat up the whole fan interaction kind of thing. And obviously anything can happen in MMA, but I guess the history does speak for itself, but it is also history. So in what year did he beat Adesanya? How long ago was it?
2017 in kickboxing.
2017 in kickboxing. So a lot of things could differ. And if Adesanya has been training MMA for how long compared to this guy? So it's like anything can happen. But if that's the fight to make, definitely not his first fight coming in. If he's just got to jump to the UFC, he's gonna have to go up to the rankings like everyone else, I guess.
Yes, he did it. Fought Rob Wilkinson, then he fought Marvin Vittori, then he fought Brad Tavares, starched Derek Brunson like it was no one's business, beat an over the hill Anderson, but you know what? That was an iconic fight just to help really get Izzy's profile going. I think Kelvin Gastelum's the only one that really gives Israel a hard time. I mean, more people are going to probably look at the game plan of how to fight Izzy, but I don't see a Paulo Costa rematch happening anytime soon. Just the way Costa was schooled and embarrassed. I think I believe the game plan on Costa is just take him apart, pick him apart. Yeah, he pressures you, but just pick him apart because eventually the knight in armor is going to have his cracks, and then with the cracks come the collapse.
Well, we've got to see how he comes off of his defeat. like the next fight is always, when your O leaves and then you get onto that next fight is when you're really going to see something. So I guess, yeah, give Costa someone in the top 10, see how that works out. If he dominates, sure, why not? Why not go up there for a title?
But if not, I mean, I guess the book is already out, because I mean Uriah Hall was sort of winning, but Uriah's gonna be Uriah and have his mental collapse, because that's one that really puzzles me. All the talent in the world, that guy was billed as the next big thing for middleweight, with his amazing kickboxing record, his amazing like that knockout on Tough. What do you think happened with Uriah that led him to be like? Because I know you're a fan of Uriah, and I want to be a fan too, but it's just like the way it's like he does good, and then it's like he's like it's like, oh no, it's like it's gonna be back down to square one for him.
Well, I'll know that my kind of idea of what he would do. I don't know if he's a big fan of this show and he's gonna listen to, but I'm not the wizard here, but I would say that he just needs to find his zen, which I feel like he's been trying for a long time, to find his kind of, I'm okay with how I am and how I'm okay with doing this. But on the other hand, when your boss says such negative comments about your win against Anderson Silva in Anderson Silva's final fight, kind of thing, that must be a bummer. And I can understand Uriah Hall just saying, all right, screw you, and moving to another promotion, to be honest. I can see that happening. And if he does, then, I'm sure he would do very well in other promotions. I'm sure he'll do well in other sports if he chooses to do that. But he just needs to find that piece that's missing, because when that piece is there, he seems unstoppable.
He's done very well at Fortis MMA. I mean, Fortis has done really well, like with guys like him, Eric Anders. How do you say her name? Bia Maliki?
Bia Maliki, yes.
Yeah, she's another one that's also from Scandinavia. Like, do you have high hope? Do you see big things for her? Is she kind of like still finding her way?
There was a thing with her that kind of, coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, she was on the same Ultimate Fighter that Pani Kianzad was there on. And the truth is in the pudding there, that the Pani Kianzad that has gone through Invicta, that has fought a Spirit Challenge, that has, she was ready for her UFC kind of push up, even though she didn't win the Ultimate Fighter. And then they chose Bia Maleki to go in with a record of, like, I think it was like 1-0, or like barely any pro fights. That kind of rubbed me up the wrong way of, what was the UFC looking for coming into this kind of thing. But she has also surprised me, and Bia Maleki has gone on a roll. Pani Kianzad is now in the UFC, which I'm super happy about that as well, as what she deserves. And but Bia Maleki, I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough. I haven't seen enough to give a pinpoint or to give a statement on where she's going to be ending up. But I hope she gets a fight soon, and I hope we get to see her in the cage again.
I hope so too, because I mean, like, look, she looks great, very tall. She's got that striker body that does very well. But it's like as mentioned, I look at it as it's kind of like a bit of a Paige Van Zandt, where it's like, yeah, she's very good looking, but it's like, let's see you fight, let's see what you were brought in for. I get it. Like, you can be marketable, showing like, look, she can be marketable, saying, look, she's attractive and she can really whoop ass. But I think Penny too can be very marketable as well, because Penny's got she looks like she has a very beautiful personality, and it's like, and as you said, look at all the accomplishments, and that's someone she's now in the top 10 basically, and she's really worked her way up. And I think when Amanda Nunes leaves, bantamweight's open, man. It's open season for that bantamweight belt. So I think she can be a really good contender and then eventually make it to champion, because she's got the background. Her grappling has gotten very good, being a striker. So I really hope, Pani succeeds, because that'd be really good. Very nice story she has as well.
Yeah, and if you listen back to my podcast with her from prior, she was saying almost that, like, when the UFC said no after the Ultimate Fighter, she was questioning, if she should be doing it anymore. So that she kind of picked herself up. She had one fight in Superior Challenge, which is a promotion here in Sweden, and then got the call again from the UFC, and has now been putting on amazing fights, win or lose kind of thing. Yeah, it's a great story of, you know, even if you're told no, get back up and keep doing what you're doing. And then when it comes to Amanda Nunes, I hate to never say never, but I don't know what to throw at Amanda Nunes. She just seems she is the GOAT at the moment. She is the GOAT. I mean, number one, like women's pound for pound for sure. I can't see what can beat her.
I agree. No, like she's Mike Tyson she's the Mike Tyson of women's MMA. Like, you know, it's just throw them to the lioness. She's gonna just chew them up and spit out the bones, and it's like, okay, who's next? And I mean,
exactly.
maybe Megan Anderson can give her trouble. I don't know, because Megan Anderson is extremely tall, and you know that could probably pose some challenges. But I mean, look, Felicia Spencer was pretty built, and Nunes had zero. It was basically like watching Tito Ortiz beat up Vladimir Matyushenko, like where Matyushenko was like just taking the beating, and you know that's what happened with Felicia Spencer. Who, credit to her, it's not easy to come out and say and still look amazing after Amanda Nunes puts a beating on you, but it says a lot about that girl, man. Felicia Spencer is also another one, but will they keep the featherweight women's division? That's the big question, because, you know, I could see them keeping the men's flyweight, but look at women's featherweight. They built that division for Chris Cyborg when she came, but then look at how acrimonious her leaving was.
Yeah, it was the Cyborg division to start with, but now look at it. I think they should keep the featherweight division. I could ask you this question. I've asked this with a lot of female guests and also a lot of promoters as well. What's your thoughts about women's MMA? And also, do you think that the UFC will one day put on a exclusive women's only pod? Because they do that with men all the time.
I think women's MMA is amazing for the sport, because look at how pivotal Ronda Rousey was, and I believe it has its place in sports. I really believe it does. And do I think there's going to be a women's only card? Part of me says yes, but part of me says no, because it depends, like, how marketable are these women athletes? Like, the only marketable athletes are the Amanda Nuneses, were the Ronda Rousey. Now Valentina Shevchenko is becoming marketable because she's speaking more, and, you know, everyone's realizing, oh, you know what, Valentina's like a female GSP with her martial arts background and her personality. But so it really depends, like, you know, and then, but because other people look at, like, I mean, Joanna lost a lot of fans after how she conducted herself versus Rose the first time. Thug Rose has kind of disappeared since, you know, she's kind of like being her, living out of the limelight. The other ones, it's like, you're only a fan. I think you're only a fan really if you really follow the sport in detail. But then sometimes the other people look at these female fighters that are the good looking ones as eye candy. So I want to say yes, you have to really use all the stars. But part of me says it really depends on Dana, because Dana is a money guy. So he wants to see, will this bring in revenue? So.
Well, then listen, Dana, if you're watching this podcast, International Women's Day, the week of that, do it.
I think that'd be great. That March 4th, right? March 4th. Did I get the day right?
I don't know.
It's always in March. It's always in March, though.
Yeah.
International Women's Day. Yeah, I think that's when you should do that. I think that, you know what? I think we should present that idea to Dana. That'd be amazing. Yeah, let's do
Dana,
that. Like,
send it to Dana.
Yeah, well.
Give him the link.
Yeah, if I can. I mean, like, we all know how he feels about the media, especially after that tirade he went on, like, just like trashing it. But you know what? There's some media out there that, you know, that really like piss me the fuck off. And, you know, like, I'm not afraid to call a spade a spade. Like, there's like this one, there's this one journalist one time that like, this is another thing I want to talk to you about too, because some of these journalists, like, with their agendas, like, whether, like, you know, their social justice or whatnot, and like just the way they come off on fans, it's like you're a real piece of shit. Like, you only have a job. You really have a job thanks to Dana. You can shit on him all you want, but don't bite the hand that feeds you. You don't have to agree with everything Dana does. But you know what? It's like, look, Dana is like giving you guys like a chance to like report the sport basically. And, you know, there was this one like where I'll never forget it. Like we were trying to message, like I was messaging her like one time, and she said like she's from Canada. I'm not going to give her name because I know how these people are. They don't
Yeah,
they want.
everyone's googling Canadian female reporter. Like,
She literally told me. She literally told me, and I'm quoting here. You're gonna want it. You're gonna want to like try heroin after this. Probably. I'm exaggerating. It's a bad joke, but George St. Pierre is not on my GOAT list because of how he conducted himself with the Johnny Hendricks fight, because it was a bit suspicious that he might have taken something. I don't want to yell in the microphone, but I just want to, I'm having like a Lewis Black moment. You know, the comedian Lewis Black, where he just loses his mind having an aneurysm.
yeah.
I'm just like, what? Like, can you come again? Are you like normal? And she would just like shame people for she'd shame people who are John Jones fans. It's like, you know what? It's like, I'm a John Jones fan, but you know, maybe I should shame you for being such a little immature bitch. Because if you're really and I don't mean that bitch like, he's like, she was a bitch how she came off to me, and I'm not afraid to say how I feel. Like you get so mad when we say why, like for example, when John Jones tested positive, they had that little picogram issue, and people were like retweeting when he told off that journalist, calling her fake news. She's like, shame on everybody who retweets this and promotes John Jones' behavior. And it's like, guys, and then like I retweeted it. So I said, okay, I guess I'm a deplorable, huh? Because I retweeted it. She's like, I guess so. And I said, well, I guess you're an immature journalist who gets triggered by everything easily. And if you really were covering the sport, you'd have an unbiased and have a thicker skin to not let these things get to you. And
yeah. There is so little people that are actually educated to be judges and actually can be judges, but everyone is a judge.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's the life that we're living in right now.
I'll be honest. I could have handled myself better there, because I'll be honest. Like, look, but you know what? Like, I just don't like people. Like, for me, it's a very two-way street with me. Like, if you're cool with me, like if you're very nice with me and you're taking time to answer me, and I get it, social media is the worst place to communicate, but just the way, like, you use the wording, the way you sound, and it's like, you gotta, if you want credibility and respect, be nice to others, whether you don't agree with them or not. And don't shame people if they retweet someone. Or like, she was even like saying, like, anyone who retweets the Conor giving Habib a drink comment, shame on you, because Habib's a devout Muslim. It's like, it was good entertainment. Like, you know, not all of us are bigoted.
Khabib can handle himself, kind of thing. Like,
yeah. He doesn't need defenders. But you know what? I don't want to end it on a negative note here, but you are right. You know, like, some people just shouldn't, everyone's a judge, but some people just should not be in this game if you can't handle the criticism from everybody. If you're reporting something that they don't agree with, like, you got to be like, okay, I get it, you know? So
yeah, it's like a lot of the people that follow us. Like I said, I don't really like to use the words follow us.
Me neither, for mine.
The people that are with us and the people that message me, they ask me a lot of the time, like, oh, why don't you put up, UFC results, for example? I'm like, man, that you can find everywhere. You can find that everywhere, kind of thing. You open up your Instagram and you already see a result. So why should I also report it just to get your like, kind of thing? And then there are also the media sites that are the clickbait kings. Like, I hate using clickbait. I'm not gonna put up, Conor said what to Dana White, and then you open it up and it's Conor said hello to Dana White, kind of thing, just to get your click. So that stuff super annoys me as well. So when there is news, you'll see it pop up on Freya MMA's Instagram in full. Like, you don't have to click a link. I'm gonna give you what you need. Like, I'm not gonna take time out of your day to read an article and at that end be like, not, kind of thing. Like, it's just stupid. It's just stupid.
It really is. No, I totally agree. You really want to give good value. And that's what I try to focus on too. Like, and I don't like using my followers. It's really a lifestyle. You know, when you watch my show, it's like, okay, cool. I really appreciate this. So that's why, man. But, so let me ask you this, before we end, what are some fights that you're really excited for? So one, we're going to use in Scandinavia. So we're going to do one where you're from in that region, and then the other one is in like the North American pro MMA. So let's do. I want to know, what are your 2 fights that you're really excited for in 2021?
That's a hard one. Fights right now, we don't have anything signed and sealed, or it's probably signed and sealed, but there's nothing that's been officially released. But like I said, Fight Club Rush, that's going to be on UFC Fight Pass.
Mm-hmm.
I know that their goal is to promote the best of Scandinavian MMA, so I'm looking forward to that. Some promoters in certain countries, not only in Sweden, but in, you know, we can also say in like smaller promotions, they do a thing of, you know, putting their fighter that is probably like, let's say 5-0 against a has been washed up MMA fighter that's not won a fight in like 6 years, just to promote them. And I like that right now in Sweden, we've come to the point where let's just put on the best technical fights where you don't know who's going to win, because that's what is exciting. So Fight Club Rush, that would be one of my answers. So there's not really any bouts for that yet. I'm quite excited for Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, to be honest. I'm not sure how that one's going to go. But if that fight is completely official, then I'll say that one.
I have to agree with you on that one too. That's the one that really excites me, because it's like he's going up, and it's champ versus champ basically, without the ultimate fighter. Like, we're doing this right away. Let's get it going. Izzy wants it, and I think if Izzy wins, I think there's the room for that John Jones super fight. And I think I cannot wait to see them on the microphone together. I cannot wait face to face, because Izzy said famously, he's like, I'm pretty tall too. John thinks I'm small, but I'm really tall when you see me in person. They're the same height actually, just Izzy skinny. I'm not going to lie, though. I mean, Izzy, don't wake the beast up in John Jones, because he made a comment about John's late mom. And, that's one thing you don't do with Mrs. Jones, because we all know how John was close to his mom, right?
Yeah. But one thing that I've really like, of course, it's good for business and it's good to say, but I'm not really a fan of the double champ thing, because it is completely destroying one division. So I would prefer if Izzy drops the middleweight title to fight Jan Blachowicz, and then if he wins, he's a light heavyweight champ. If he loses, then he maybe goes down to middleweight again and fights for that. Sure. But what I'm kind of seeing the ball rolling towards is Dana White's idea of a triple champ. So if Izzy beats Jan Blachowicz and then John Jones beats Stipe, for those two to then fight for, quoting Connor, all the belts. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. That's messing up. That's messing up the whole 3 whole divisions.
You're doing what Roy Jones did in boxing, where Roy had like 5 different belts in like different divisions. It's like, yeah, you're ruining the division. But I'm excited, man. Well, for me, it would have to be John Jones going to heavyweight. Let's finally see, how is the man going to do at heavyweight. And it's so good to see that him and Dana are on talking terms again. That's my fight to see. I want to see, because I think what's going to happen is in April, you're going to have Francis Stipe, and then come International Fight Week, John Jones is going to do that I'm back. Like MJ, like I'm back. And it's going to be like, everyone's going to be like, and I think it's going to be, y'all must have forgot, basically.
Yeah. But one thing also I'm not really a fan of is people jumping straight into title fights. So it would be good to see John Jones fight a top contender at heavyweight before that. Maybe round the year off with a title fight if he gets that win, kind of thing. Then we have Conor and Dustin. I'm sure that's going to be quite an exciting fight. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to in 2021. Including getting to go outside and doing normal things.
That too. All right, Reza. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to come on. Like, time just flew. Like, that's what I love about doing this show. And where can people catch you on social media? Like, if they want to connect, like, until they really see Northern European MMA.
So thankfully now we have everything as at Freya MMA, one word. That's Freya with a J. Everyone is kind of, whenever you read it, you're like, FrejaMMA? What the hell is that? But Freya MMA, at Freya MMA everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and yeah, we're coming up with new podcasts on YouTube soon, and 2021 should be an exciting year for all.
Nice. Well, once again, man, I really appreciate this. You coming on. It was great. Great way to kick off 2021, with me heading and expanding the audience to Northern Europe now, because
Yep.
it's you got to keep it open, man. And I'm excited. So once again, if you ever want to come back on, doors always open. And let's do this again if ever you're down.
Yeah. And thank you everyone that watches and listens, and make sure to follow the Drew Experience.
Yeah, Drew Experience is Drew Experience Pod on Instagram. Drew Nomad 55 on Instagram. I'm on Twitter too. Let me just I'm not getting my phone out to text him. I'm just getting my.
So unprofessional.
Okay, I'm not good with this stuff like you, because like I got a full-time job. I'm taking care of like my mom right now, as I told you. Okay, so on Twitter, my Twitter is Drew Nomad 3. Podcast page on for Drew Experience is a different name. It's Drew Experience P, and on IG Drew Nomad 3 and Drew Experience Pod on Instagram.
There we go. Got them all in at once.
Exactly. Confuse a few people. All right, man. Thanks, Reza. You have yourself a good one.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.